Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Packers Unscripted from Packers.com. I am Mike Spofford, joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Wes Hodgkins. We're coming to you here from our studios at Lambeau Field to discuss, Wes, yet another down-to-the-wire victory by the Green Bay Packers. Is the third one this season. The Packers have won at the buzzer, so to speak, and this one, a blocked field goal at Soldier Field to beat the Chicago Bears 20-19. Everything on that final drive, the Bears, getting out of the 3rd and 19, they convert on 4th and short. They get themselves in position, and it's looking like, okay, the Packers have won a couple games on walk-off field goals. Now they're going to lose one on a walk-off field goal, but no. Carl Brooks gets the hand up there, gets the fingertip on the football, and the Packers survive.
The Cardiac Pack 2.0 is what I've been calling this to my father the past week. Wow. It seems like every way the Packers could win a football game this year, they've done it. And I am not above telling you exactly what was going through my head at the end of that game, because Cairo Santos is a very accomplished kicker. It's been doing it for a long time now in this league. People forget the issues that the Bears had trying to find a kicker after Robbie Gould. Santos is the one that ended that carousel for them.
Right.
And has held down that job for multiple years now. I hate to be a pessimist. I love being a half glass, half full guy. But I had a running game story to write. You were doing a final recap. I was getting ready for a Packers loss in terms of writing my stuff and getting stuff ready so we could get down to the locker room. I was ill-prepared for handling a potential game. Missing a field goal is one thing, but then a game-winning field goal block, the first one since your great-grandfather was, traversing the halls of Washington, D.C.?
Something like that, yeah.
1939, the last time the Packers have won a football game off a field goal block on the last play of the game against the world-renowned Cleveland Rams, and they got the job done, man. And how many times have I written this season, including in Tuesday's inbox, it just doesn't matter, just win the game. And this was probably the best, biggest example of it all. You do not apologize. You do not take any style points and try to add them into the victory or massage it any other way other than the fact the Packers won the game, and they continued an unprecedented 11 straight victories over the Chicago Bears.
And that's the historical note I wanted to pivot to, because this falls in the category of you can't make this stuff up.
Cannot.
25 years ago at Lambeau Field, the Chicago Bears came into Green Bay having lost 10 in a row to the Packers. And they break the streak of 10 straight losses to the Packers on Brian Robinson's block of Ryan Longwell's chip shot, a 28-yarder. The Packers sat on the ball, 28-yarder. This is going to be a win. Brian Robinson, the hand of Walter. Walter Payton had passed away earlier in the week. The hand of Walter blocks the field goal, and the Bears break their 10-game losing streak in the rivalry. Fast forward to Sunday at Soldier Field, and the Packers have won 10 straight, and the Bears are lining up for the field goal to break the 10-game losing streak, and the Packers block the field goal to make it 11 in a row, the first time in the history of the NFL's oldest rivalry that one team has won 11 straight. But breaking this game down a little bit further, offensively first for Green Bay. I came out of this game just with a whole bunch of mixed feelings about the offense, because if you had told me, we had talked all week last week, and I was the one stressing it. The Bears were the number 1 red zone defense. The Packers were the number 29 red zone offense. That was the situational matchup that would probably decide the game.
Yep.
If you had told me before the game started that the Packers were going to get in the red zone 5 times against the Bears and score 3 touchdowns, I would have said Packers are going to have a heck of a chance to win the game. But if you had also told me that twice when the Packers get in the red zone, they're going to get 0 points on 2 red zone opportunities, in this case, actually 2 opportunities that got all the way to the 5-yard line, and the Packers got no points, I would have said, well, you're going to have a hard time winning that football game. So that's where I say, like, I have my mixed feelings. There was a ton to like about what the Packers did on offense with very limited opportunities. we'll talk about the reasons for those limited opportunities when we get to the defense. There was a lot to like about what the Packers did on offense, but to only come out with 20 points in that game was extremely frustrating because, again, as we've said so many times this year, there was so much more out there for this team to put on the scoreboard.
As the great Dom Capers once said in the Packers media auditorium, let me start with the positives.
Okay.
First and foremost, it looks like, knock on wood, Jordan Love has put the groin injury behind him. He was scrambling more. He was working under center more.
Absolutely.
And the Packers wanted to run more in this game, more conventional, and they were able to do that. And for all the things people have Monday morning quarterbacked about this game, the game plan, I think, was rock solid. There were so many things that you and I discussed last week. You had to run the football. They probably didn't run it as well as they wanted to, but you had to do it because if you get in third and long, you're setting the bear trap there, no pun intended, for Chicago to be able to get a takeaway, which is ultimately what happened in the red zone on one of those plays.
Right.
When they had to go third and long and they're still darting towards the end zone. Christian Watson was unbelievable in this game. The downfield stuff that him and Jordan Love had been trying to find their chemistry, trying to find that, get on the same page with, they did it in this game. A few moments of results over process, the long pass, the 48-yarder, when it also looked like he had Tucker Kraft available underneath. It is what it is, but what I loved about that play too, I'm sure you saw it in your What You Might Have Missed series, Tucker's running right towards Christian to celebrate with him as soon as the play happens. Was extremely happy for him. Watson's a guy that has very much, he has absolutely earned all of those opportunities. The 60-yard catch and run won the Packers the game pretty much.
Yeah.
And they did those types of explosive plays. And when you look at how the Packers won this game, independent of Carl Brooks's block, they won it with explosive plays. The Chicago Bears played cleaner, the Packers played better, and that's how they won the game. The disappointing thing was, much like I was talking about with the run game, everybody knew the Packers had to produce inside the red zone to be able to really pull away in this one, and they failed to do that. Part of that, you give credit to the Bears. They're the number one ranked red zone defense for a reason.
Yep.
But unfortunately, some of the things that have plagued the Packers showed up in the red zone. The penalty that initially pushed them back on the illegal man downfield. Those are the type of things you still want to clean up, while by and large they did in the penalty front, but it showed itself in the red area. And then certainly just a missed opportunity. Jordan Love played a pretty solid game overall, but then as Matt LaFleur was saying, the ball kind of sails on him on that third down pass to Tucker Kraft, a moment where the Packers are just maybe trying to use that catch and run, that yak to potentially get into the end zone, and it doesn't work out there. It ends up being an interception. Chicago's offense starts rolling the other way.
Yep.
A lot of words I've just spoken, but basically, it comes down to the fact the Packers still have things to work on, but they're one of the most explosive offenses in the league right now, and that's ultimately what bailed them out.
That's what I keep, hanging the hat on, so to speak, with regard to this Packers offense, for the frustrations and the points that are left out there, and the scoreboard, hasn't in so many games hasn't reflected what maximizing those opportunities would be. This team, no matter what defense it has gone against, they can generate explosive plays. And that is something that this offense can definitely hang its hat on moving forward. I'm 100% with you on Christian Watson. That was a tremendous game for him. All four of his catches, all four of his receptions were explosive plays, and they were all critical. They were all big-time plays at big moments in the game. The other guy I will point out that I thought played a really, really good game, and it seems like I talk about him every week, is Josh Jacobs. He was grinding away on the ground. He also had an impact in the passing game, rushing and receiving 134 yards from scrimmage for Jacobs. The receiving was a combination of a couple of design passes, but also a couple of checkdowns, which then also gets me to the game that Jordan Love played. And quite honestly, yes, there's a lot of focus on the interception, as the throw that got away from him was the right decision, where the ball was supposed to go on the play. It was just a bad throw. The Bears happened to have somebody in the right spot where the overthrow went to get the interception. But honestly, that was the only bad pass Jordan Love threw the entire game, quite frankly. He ends up 13 out of 17. He scrambled and took off. He made the Bears pay a little bit with his legs. He did take checkdowns to the running backs, whether it was to Chris Brooks or to Josh Jacobs here and there. Other than that one bad pass, he did not put the ball in harm's way. I thought Jordan Love played a really, really good game. I think him being fully healthy, having the bye week to rest up, take all the practice reps, all that stuff we talked about last week certainly played into it. Jordan Love was this close because of that one bad pass to playing the type of game that we would be praising him for. Everybody would be praising him for up and down. I think that's a huge sign for this Packers offense moving forward. And in his defense a little bit, Matt LaFleur fell on the sword with regard to the interception, not because of the play itself, but because that 3rd and long was set up because LaFleur criticized himself for not just running Jacobs on 2nd and 1 from the 5-yard line, called the pass play. That's what leads to the illegal man downfield. You don't get illegal man downfield if you run the ball. So that backed the Packers up. Then they tried the end around with Jaden Reed. That lost a few more yards. It put Love in a bad spot with 3rd and long. And Matt LaFleur was really upset at himself for not just calling a running play on 2nd and 1. You get a 1st and goal inside the 5-yard line. You pound it in there, and very likely the game is 14-3, and we're not talking about a blocked field goal at the end for the win. But back to my original point, I thought Jordan Love played probably his best overall game of the season. There's only one bad pass, one play like that we're talking about as far as what went wrong, and hopefully that bodes well for this offense moving forward.
Do you know what I like the most, Mike? Packers had a huge momentum flip right around halftime. A bulk of the Chicago Bears points came between that mark of at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second. Love kept his composure, as we know he does, but he led them out a huge drive there to start the third quarter, capitalized by Josh Jacobs getting that 7-yard rushing touchdown, the 50th of his NFL career in the regular season. And then when they needed drives late, he made plays. And he put his players in positions to make plays. The pass to Christian Watson, not the most perfect textbook pass. Watson had to lay out for that thing and make a play. But the thing I love about what Jordan...
And Love had a guy in his face on that.
Absolutely did.
Number 99 had just slipped by Josh Myers. The pocket had held up really well. Josh Jacobs had picked up the blitzer, TJ Edwards. 99 had started to slip by Josh Myers and got a pretty good hit on Love as he let that ball go. But fortunately, Watson was able to make the diving catch.
As LaFleur said, staring down the barrel sometimes to make those plays. But Watson made it right. And that's where getting on the same page is so critical and being able to capitalize on these opportunities. Jordan Love, man, people are going to perseverate on the interceptions, and that's going to be something the rest of the season. He's already thrown 11. We have 9 more games in the regular season. 8 more? How many games do we have left?
7.
7, thank you.
Hopefully the Packers have 9 or 10 games left, but yes, 7 in the regular
NFL is adding games every 3 minutes. I can't figure out exactly how many there are left anymore. 7 games left in the regular season. He's sitting on 11 interceptions. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a secret. He's probably going to throw another one at some point.
Yeah, he will.
So when people come up with he threw another pick and now it's 11. Well, he might throw one this week. It might be 12. You can't worry about what's happened. Even last year, I thought, I don't know if you caught this, but Alex Smith had a tremendous analysis of Jordan Love in the lead up to Sunday's game, where he was talking about Jordan's numbers in the first half of last year are pretty similar to what they are right now, but then he got on that run.
Yeah.
Nobody was talking about the 11 interceptions they had last season. They're talking about the 4,000 passing yards, the 32 touchdowns. And that's where they need Jordan to get to now. So I thought that was a major step in the right direction offensively.
Yeah, I mean, not to get hung up on the interceptions for too long, but the reason that the bad decision interceptions really hurt you is because you're going to have interceptions where a throw just gets away from you, where something happens,
or a guy drops it,
or a ball gets deflected or whatever, a guy doesn't catch it. So that's where the bad decision ones hurt you. You have to eliminate those. And if Jordan Love eliminates the bad decision interceptions, yeah, once in a while a throw is going to get away. It might get picked off. You can live with that at the end of the day. The frustrating thing, not just the 2 drives that reached the 5-yard line, but ultimately the Packers come away with no points. But as well as the Packers were moving the ball steadily, consistently on offense, they only got 6 possessions in this game, not including the 1-play kneel down at the end of the first half. 6 possessions in this game. And that's because the Packers defense had a really, really rough day. The defense could not get off the field, could not get the ball back to Jordan Love and the offense enough. The Bears end up with 36 and a half minutes of time of possession. They end up with, on their 7 drives, they didn't have a single drive with fewer than 7 plays, and 5 of their 7 drives were double-digit plays, 10 or more. Combining third and fourth downs, the Bears were 12 out of 17.
Yep.
The Packers defense just, they put themselves in enough situations to get off the field, but then they couldn't do it. And the Bears had switched offensive coordinators like we talked about. I think the new offensive coordinator whispered something in Caleb Williams' ear, so to speak, of like, hey, you can take off and run. Your legs are a good weapon. Go ahead and use them. Don't forget about them, kind of thing.
Yep.
And they mixed in the zone read stuff where it was, where he gets the decision to hand off or keep, and he hurt the Packers that way.
Up.
Between the scrambles and the zone read, 70 rushing yards from the quarterback. That was a big game from Caleb Williams. And I thought the way he used his legs built his confidence in the passing game and the throws that he was able to make. And it just felt to me like the way Caleb Williams used his legs to hurt the Packers, it just kept the Packers defense on its heels the whole game. The Packers were not in attack mode on defense because they got kind of thrown off kilter by all the running around that Caleb Williams was doing. And credit to the Bears, it should have been enough for them to win the game, and it almost was if they don't get the kick blocked.
And kind of like Malik Willis, when he was filling in for Jordan Love with what he can do with his legs, what Williams did is it helped set up DeAndre Swift. Swift had a really hard time getting going. Rashawn Johnson had a hard time getting going. When he started scrambling, then they started working the read option. That's then when he broke off the 39-yard touchdown.
Yeah, then he gets the touchdown on the toss sweep. Yeah,
and that's where you're starting to see things happen. Now, again, I'll mention the positives here quickly with the Packers defense. They didn't rupture. That's the thing. Green Bay had 30 fewer possessions or whatever it was, but they still had more explosive plays than the Bears did.
And at the end of the day, there's only 19 points on the board, so you can't you can't be too overly critical. But it was the way the game unfolded and the way the possessions were limited that the Packers offense just didn't get the chances that you would like it to get when they were moving the ball so well.
And a lot of those explosive plays the Bears got ended up being during the final stretch of that game.
Yeah.
Now, I'll bring it back around for a second. The Packers end up turning over the ball, and Bears get it at the 2-yard line. This is where I sometimes, and Connor Lewis knows these statistics a lot better than me. The idea, and Matt kind of touched on this a little bit too, when a team is starting at the -2, if you don't rupture, even if you give up a couple first downs and the Bears are playing the way they have to play, they consistently have to keep getting first downs. That helped Green Bay get through that situation to get the ball back, to eventually have the one where they finally did go ahead with the scoring drive. They responded in that instance. The tough thing for Green Bay though was, and I've gone back and forth with fans about this, but you finally get some pressure on the quarterback. You get the TJ Slayton sack, which is then followed by the Rashawn Gary sack. And right. Rashawn might have had his best game of the season against Chicago with what he was able to do. When you look at the pressure numbers, when you look at the quarterback, he had some of the tackles he had. Rashawn was getting after it. He gets a sack for -8 or 9 yards. 3rd and 19 you're sitting in. I know everybody wants the Packers to move up and play press man coverage and be physical and everything, and you just cannot do that. But but what that 3rd down play was a good illustration of is the extremely minute, narrow margin for error. Kingsley Enagbare leaves his feet on the pass rush. He's trying to make a play, but then Williams, again, with the feet, gets in the open field, extends, and then Rome Odunze makes 2 fantastic catches, back-to-back plays, to be able to move the ball downfield. You have to get off the field on 3rd downs. 8 conversions, and beyond that, 3 4th down conversions on the 5 instances where they didn't convert on 3rd down. Chicago was just way too efficient. Green Bay has to break that. That being said, they made it right, and that's what complementary football is. If you're not getting everything from the defense, but they're still keeping points off the board, they're still finding ways to keep you in it, that's where the special teams has to pick them up. And obviously, that's where the explosive plays came into a factor for Green Bay as well.
Yeah, I thought the defense had a chance to sort of cure a lot of ills on the day when the game's on the line, final possession, the Packers have the lead by 1 point. You get the back-to-back sacks, you put them in 3rd and 19. You and I were talking because I think at that point it was the 2-minute warning, so there's a little bit of a break on the clock. you and I were talking, and I think you and I were in agreement where it's like, okay, you don't get too aggressive on 3rd and 19. You make them take the check down. You sit back and cover. You make them take the check down. You come up, get a tackle. Maybe they get 7 or 8 yards, and you've got them in like 4th and 12.
Yeah.
And then the game's on the line on 4th and 12. What happened? The play got extended. And that's where your plan defensively gets foiled, because the play gets extended and it becomes a quote unquote plaster situation, because the quarterback avoids the sack, gets out of the pocket, and then the receivers are further downfield and they're able to hit the 16-yarder. So then instead of a 4th and long or a 4th and medium, you're in a much more 4th and manageable, 4th and 3. And then on that play, the 4th down play, I tip my hat to Caleb Williams and Roma.
Yeah,
that was a back shoulder throw and catch down the sideline. I don't know what you can really do to defend that, and it's such a quick 3-step drop and release. There's nothing the pass rush can really do there. That's just a great play by those guys. You would have liked to have seen them, seen it not be 4th and 3, because then the defense is in a little bit different situation. But
the rush call changes completely.
Yeah, absolutely. The way you play it changes. So unfortunately, that opportunity for the defense to kind of cure the ills and maybe get the same type of stop that the defense got to win the Rams game when the Rams were trying to rally at the end. The defense had a chance to do that and didn't do that. And so that's concerning from that standpoint. Unfortunately, the Packers had lost Jair Alexander. They thought they were going to get him back. He only plays a handful of snaps in the first half. The knee wasn't good enough. He ends up in street clothes for the second half and wasn't able to continue. So that's an injury situation that we will continue to watch. But it felt like it's the word I used at the beginning of the show. It just felt like the Packers survived it.
Yep.
And now they're 7-3 with a lot to look forward to. As you said, 7 regular season games left to go. There is a ton of football left in this season, and the Packers are in position to make something of it.
And quickly to end on this note before we start looking at the league, I tip my hat to Rich Bisaccia, Byron Storer, everybody that's involved in that side of the face. They did their research going into this game. They saw a potential opportunity there with the A-gap and the field goal protection unit. As Matt LaFleur and Josh Jacobs both said, Bisaccia brought it to the team and basically brought it to his phase, his we-fence, and said, I'll be highly disappointed if we don't come out with a block in this game. And I was talking with Javon Bullard afterwards, and he's like, we thought we'd get one. It just so happened to be the last one that they finally end up getting through on. And Carl Bradford gets his second block of his career. And I want to mention this because Carl Bradford, I did it again.
Yeah, that's the second time you've done it.
I hope Carl's doing well out there. He's getting a lot of pub here on Packers Unscripted this season. Carl Brooks gets the job done, the second block of his career, and I thought this was a tremendous statistic that Tom Fanning from the Packers communication staff figured out. I don't know if it was in concert with Elias or not. It was probably just his own studying. Since 2022, when Rich Bisaccia was hired, the Green Bay Packers now have the second most blocked field goals in the National Football League to Pittsburgh. And if you know anything about the Steelers special teams units and just what they've accomplished, they have 10 in that stretch. The Packers have 6, 2 of those belonging to Brooks, 2 of them belonging to Kobe Wooden. And I think Josh Nijman is in there as well. The Packers have found ways to be able to do that. It just so happened in this case, it ended up saving them a football game. The Packers now sitting at 7-3. 3 of those games have come down to the final play, and that final play has been special teams.
And I'll just say this before I get on to sponsor business and we move on to other topics. There's a lot of people talking out there about the Bears head coach, Matt Eberflus, said he's sending the play into the league because of contact with the long snapper. I'm just going to clarify this because I didn't actually clarify it very well in Monday's Insider Inbox column. I'm going to do so in Wednesday's column. Yes, the long snapper is protected from contact, but the rule is he's only protected from contact when his head is down. And he's not allowed to just keep his head down the entire time.
Got to go up.
And prevent anybody from rushing the A-gap. He has to snap the ball, get his head up in position, and when his head is up, then he can be contacted. So you can't just snap the ball as a long snapper on a field goal and keep your head down and not allow anybody to rush in that spot. I mean, we know the Bears aren't going to get anywhere with sending this into the league. I guess I don't blame them in some respects for doing it. If I'm Matt Eberflus, I don't know if I would have made that public that I'm complaining about that.
Packers send stuff into the league every week. They don't announce it.
And Matt LaFleur never tells anybody, unless he's directly asked about it, and he might say, yes, I'm sending it into the league, and then he's not even going to comment on it.
Right.
We've never heard anything of what the Packers get back from the league in those situations. So I just wanted to clarify what the rule actually is, because a lot of people think the rule is the long snapper can't be touched. No, I mean, yes, he can't be touched when his head is down, but he also can't keep his head down the entire time. So,
may I add one last thing?
Sure.
You know how in Insider Inbox occasionally we'll get the people that write in and it's like, hey, I was a high school football coach, or I officiated, my middle school, basketball team's league. I have one of those moments here. One thing happened in that game against the Bears, because obviously there was that incident with Xavier McKinney at the start of the game. I found this funny. Matt Eberflus pining for calls and everything like that. I think there's a line there where you obviously are working the officials, but it reminded me of my own City League basketball career, where there were times where we would play teams and we knew we were not as good as them, and we knew we needed every single thing to go right in order to even have a remote chance of beating them, and we would be on the officials of these making $25 or whatever for the game. That's what it reminded me of. It didn't remind me of a head coach working the referees. It reminded me of a guy that's pretty desperate for his team to win. And I mean, before the McKinney flag, there was another incident on the sideline where his hands were up, his neck was back, and he's throwing himself around like a beanie baby, trying to, make it known that he thinks there should be a penalty. It is what it is. You move on. But I love what Matt LaFleur said about this. You can't depend on that stuff. He wasn't talking about Eberflus, but he was just talking about it happens all the time. There are always penalties that you are going to disagree with, or things you didn't think got called. But your team still needs to win the football game and play beyond that.
Yeah.
The Bears didn't do that.
Yeah, you have to protect your field goal kicker, and the Bears didn't do it. The Packers got the penetration that helped them win the game. Sponsor business here, West Sirius XM NFL Radio delivers hard-hitting analysis and up-to-the-minute NFL news that true football fanatics need 24/7, 365. And at Cousin Subs, we have something for everyone, like our Wisconsin cheese curds, mac and cheese, golden fries, and creamy shakes, all paired with your favorite sub or sub in a bowl of Cousin Subs, 50-plus years of better. All right, we're running a little bit late, so we'll get through this quickly and then sign off. The NFC North. Detroit is 9-1, Minnesota is 8-2, Green Bay is 7-3. The weekend played out as we thought. The NFC North completed a 14-2 near sweep of the AFC South, with the Jaguars losing to the Lions and the Titans losing to the Vikings.
I didn't get to tell you this during your pre-production meeting. The Lions still have to play the Colts this week.
Really?
Yeah, they do. So we're close. It's 13-2 right now.
13-2. My bad.
I was going to mention that to you beforehand when I was looking at the schedule. Lions, Detroit is at Lucas Oil.
I missed that then. I thought that.
But I just want to make sure we got that right. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that. That. I missed it.
The Lions going to be big underdogs going into Lucas Oil.
Occasionally is wrong.
But that being said,
so it is 13-2.
You look at how Jared Goff bounced back, a 5-interception game, and he was perfect. 158.3. The Jacksonville Jaguars barely even got off the bus.
Yeah.
Wow. 52-6. You do that to somebody in the National Football League. There was a couple of those games we covered in the McCarthy era. I think there was one with even early on. I think before I started covering the team, there was a game against the Saints where I think they won like 55-3 or something like that. But if you can do that in a league with 32 teams, the best players in the world, you tip your cap to them. And then certainly Tennessee made it a little bit interesting, but just Minnesota too much. 8-2, 7-3. What a division.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts really quickly before we go, because we talked about all these big games featuring all these teams with 7+ wins going into the weekend. So Philadelphia defeats Washington, Buffalo defeats Kansas City and hands the Chiefs their first loss of the season, and Pittsburgh kicks a whole bunch of field goals, and it's enough to beat the Baltimore Ravens. I can't say I'm surprised or shocked necessarily by any of those results, and I think all of those teams still have a lot in front of them, and some of those games might, quite frankly, be playoff previews.
Mike Tomlin will be a Hall of Fame coach. He'll be in Canton someday, but my goodness, there's so many times I watch his teams play, I'm like, this guy would have been perfect in the 60s. He could have been a Lombardi. They just find ways to win. Who beats the Baltimore Ravens 18-16 with field goal? Nobody.
But Mike Tomlin will find a way.
Chris Boswell and that team.
And Justin Tucker missed some kicks there. Chris Boswell was the kicking star of the game, and Justin Tucker had a bad game in what's a Hall of Fame career for that guy.
It's been a bad season for him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Kansas City and Buffalo, I just want to say this quickly. This was the outcome both of these teams needed. I didn't think there was any reason the Chiefs should be undefeated.
Right.
And I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm saying they're a team that I think needed to eventually lose one. Buffalo desperately needed to beat Kansas City. Now, ultimately, I think that game will once again be decided at some point in the postseason. Just seemed like it's the way it's been working out. But I think there's a lot more to be gained from that for the Chiefs, even though you want to win that game from a potential loss. I thought Patrick Mahomes' post-game speech was terrific. His address to the media was terrific. I absolutely loved, because I saw it on the plane live because we have our little TV screens there as we're doing our work, and I'm keeping kind of a little bit of an eye on the game. Buffalo is up by 2. They've got a 4th and 2 inside the 30-yard line. And Sean McDermott said, well, I could kick the field goal and go up 5 and watch Patrick Mahomes go down and score a touchdown and beat me. Or I can put the ball in my quarterback's hands on 4th and 2, and we're going to try to go get a touchdown. And not only do they convert the 4th and 2, but Josh Allen takes it all the way into the end zone. So they get the 2-score lead that Sean McDermott wanted, and the 2-score lead is what finally put Patrick Mahomes away. And you know what the real dirty secret is of this game? You obviously want to get the first round bye, but this doesn't matter. What they needed is they needed to beat Kansas City, and they need to be aggressive, because it's that type of mindset that's finally going to get you past them in the playoffs. And that's ultimately what the Bills are trying to do. I loved it. It was tremendous call. It was tremendous gutsiness. And it also shows you when you have an established football team with an established coach and a staff and a franchise quarterback that people tried to, kind of throw some shade at earlier this year. But I mean, Josh Allen is obviously one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league, potentially the MVP this season. That's the type of stuff that you do. And obviously it worked out well for Buffalo.
And I'll say real quickly before we go, team to watch in the NFC right now, obviously the Packers, everything going on in the NFC North is worth watching. But the team to watch in the NFC right now is Washington, because they had a big game on a Thursday night. They were right there against the Eagles, and they completely collapsed in the fourth quarter. Just got railroaded in the fourth quarter by a division rival. Now they get a little extra time because it was a Thursday night game, but how Washington now responds to that moving forward is going to be a big factor in the NFC playoff picture the rest of.
When you talk about slump busters, when you're hosting the Dallas Cowboys, in this version of the Dallas Cowboys, you will have an opportunity to bounce back.
Yeah, they will. They will. But I'm talking more long.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but I mean, talk about a gift from above.
Absolutely.
After that loss, after this little streak they've
they're not getting sent to Detroit to play their next game, right? So all right, well with that,
we got to talk about the draft.
Because you should be among the thousands of football fans cheering on their team's NFL picks by joining us April 24 through April 26 of 2025 for the NFL Draft. Visit greenbay.com/draft25 for more information. And with that, we'll call it a wrap on this edition of Packers Unscripted. Be sure to follow all of our coverage of the team on Packers.com. For Wes, I'm Mike. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next time.